concepts. The first is obviously individualism, but individualism itself is understood in the sense of the moral primacy, and the other concept is of the person, and the third concept is social collectivity. We'll come to that. Now, none of this can be understood without the concept of freedom, because as we'll see, the moral primacy of the person is based on the morality of freedom, which is, as an aside, is the name for a well-known book of a liberal political theorist, Joseph Ross. The morality of freedom. Freedom is something basic. Freedom, something basic, which it doesn't need to be justified, because something primary in the sense that it doesn't need to be justified, in the sense that any restriction of that freedom needs to be justified. We'll come to that. So that's the thing about moral. So moral primacy of the person. So the moral primacy of the person is based on the fact that the person has freedom. It's based on morality of freedom or primacy of freedom. So the person's will, free will. And the freedom of this will is primary or basic, which needs no justification. So that means what needs justification is any restriction on this will, the freedom of this will. So this person, the person, has moral primacy because it has free will. And this will is free in the sense that any restrictions on this will from outside needs justification. That's what we mean by negative freedom, primacy of negative freedom. And the second thing is freedom of this will, in the positive sense, doesn't need any justification, as long as it is not restricting the similar freedom of the other person, because that other person, and that's where egalitarianism will come, the second point, unless it is interfering with the similar freedom of the other person, this positive freedom doesn't need any justification either. So this is what positive freedom is. And social collectivities come here because traditionally, social collectivities, and when we talk about society, we're talking about non-liberal society and non-liberal social collectivities, because they are important. They're important because traditionally, or in traditional societies, the right of the social collectivities over individuals have been generally considered primary. So liberalism challenges that right. So, and major thing is family, because authority of the father and other family members, moral authority over the person, is no longer considered primary, needs to be justified. On the other hand, person's freedom doesn't need any justification because it is prima facie. It's a moral primacy of the personal freedom, which is the basic tenet of liberalism. So that's why traditional family has to be destroyed in the sense, because as long as that family and its moral primacy is there, the person, the liberal individual, cannot emerge. So the person's freedom has primacy and family need justification. Similarly, larger groups like tribes, society as a whole need justification. So social collectivities, the rights against social collectivities, those are negative rights in the sense that the person, the family's will or tribe's will or society's will needs justification to be imposed on the personal wills. So unless that, otherwise, a person should be free of any imposition on his will from outside, whether it's family or tribe or state or church or any other sort of morality. So because the morality is based on the primacy of the individual will, and that's what individualism is. So individualism of liberalism believe that the individual freedom is basic. It doesn't need any justification, as long as it doesn't interfere in the similar moral right of another person. And the second thing is any restriction on this freedom of will from outside need justification. For example, a person is too young, so he might parents' guidance or guardianship might be justified on contingent basis, etc. But it needs justification. On the other hand, a mature adult individual's freedom doesn't need any justification as long as it doesn't interfere with the similar freedom of another person. So that's what individualism is. So the first